Hey everyone. A lot of fictional worlds have ancient beings like gods or immortal aliens or thousand-year-old fae. If you're building a fictional place with folk who live far beyond the normal human lifespan, then here are 5 tips/questions you might ask yourself to make it all seem a little realer, a little deeper, and a little more interesting. Just a quick warning, this list contains minor spoilers for Season 2 of The Boys and for Atlantis: The Lost Empire. Before we get to the list though, let's talk about the problem we're trying to avoid. In Disney's Atlantis: The Lost Empire, there's a character named Princess Kida who is supposed to be over 8,000 years old. Now, I love that movie, but she is not convincingly written like she's 8,000 years old. And one of my favorite examples is that there's this kind of cheap gag where she doesn't know how to start the magic flying cars that are scattered around her home. But Milo, who can read her dead language because he's like an ancient language expert, he reads the instructions and figures it out pretty quick. And she's all annoyed and it's all very cute. But seriously, 8,000 years is enough time to have rediscovered all of physics and mathematics from scratch 8 times over. And then built a new magic flying car. Or, heck, if that's too hard, how come nobody in her whole immortal tribe has bothered to try and relearn the ancient language themselves? It's their life, their culture, their memories, but too hard. Somehow Milo did it in his puny mortal lifespan, but none of the people from that whole culture ever got around to it in 8,000 years, even though there were magic flying cars to be had. Makes you ask the question, what have those people doing with all that time? And the answer is nothing. Because the writers couldn't be bothered to think that hard, so the Atlanteans were literally just waiting for the main characters to show up, apparently, for 8,000 years. And Atlantis is a particularly egregious example, but there could be a lot of examples here. I was going to make a list, but I realized I bet you guys can actually do it better. Every one of you probably can think of an example of a so-called ancient character that wasn't written so great, so put down in the comments your favorite. So how can you avoid that in your stories? Tip number 1. Just ask yourself, what have your immortals been doing with their time? A rough outline is probably sufficient, maybe just a handwritten list. It's fine if they're not very efficient with their time, because why would they be? They've got plenty to spare. But they're probably up to something, and whatever they're doing, they probably get good at it eventually, and if they are doing it for long enough and good enough, hey, it probably changes the world, at least a little, right? Tip number 2 has to do with unchanging immortals. If you decide your immortals don't change over time, you're in good company. Most depictions of Greek gods and Norse gods, Peter Pan, Tom Bombadil, most fairies and dragons, they all fit into this category. In this case, ask yourself, since the immortal doesn't change, how would the world change to adapt to them? So say there's a Loki-like trickster god who's been playing tricks for centuries and never changes their deal. Probably people eventually get used to it, right? You can even make it like a cultural thing where every time people meet, their greeting is to casually check each other for imposters. Or say there's a Zeus-like god who's constantly having, say, illegitimate children. Maybe that was a real problem until someone realized, well, actually, there's a lot of people who would willingly love to have kids with the King of Heaven. And getting a god's attention isn't that hard if you know how to do it. So they figure out a system, and now there's a line of volunteers outside the temple every night, and 10% of the population has half-god powers. And maybe that has its own problems, and you can write a whole world from there. The point is, people are pretty good at adapting to stuff if they have enough time, right? So, how does your world adapt? Tip number 3. This is for unhappy immortals. Again, this is a very common trope. They usually come from cautionary tales. These immortals are often stuck in the past, or they're broken from outliving the people they loved, or they're just bored of everything. Some examples include Balric Wowbagger, the infinitely prolonged from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Love that name. Love Hitchhiker's Guide. There's the Struldbrug from Gulliver's Travels. Hopefully I'm saying that right. There's the elves and the Ents from Lord of the Rings, I argue. There's Dracula from Castlevania. And I also think the Meths from Altered Carbon fit into this category. This group is perhaps the easiest kind of immortal to imagine, and I think that's because they're basically just extrapolated from a lot of real-life unhappy old people. If your immortals are in this category, my challenge to you is to ask yourself, what things have they already tried to solve their problems? A lot of these immortals I read, it seems like they just need a little therapy, honestly, and they'd be fine. Or if that's not on the table, how about drugs? Or seeking enlightenment? Or going insane? Or, and I really like this one, finding religion. Honestly, I think it would be really cool if someone made a fictional religion specifically for exploiting and or encouraging immortal people. There'd be no afterlife, obviously. Maybe oblivion is the final reward, maybe enlightenment is, or something else. I don't know. Bonus points to anyone who can reference something like that in the comments. Anyway, it's fine if you have unhappy immortals. Maybe they really can't solve their problems. But with endless time, probably they'd at least try something, right? Tip 4. This is for thriving ancients. Immortals that are willing and able to problem solve, grow, and change as needed. They appreciate what they can in life, confront setbacks as best they can, and usually they have big plans for the future. My tip for these is simple. Consider making more of them. These seem to be the rarest sort of immortals in fiction. Honestly, most of the examples I could find in these are either really obscure or villains. There's Gandalf and Sauron from Lord of the Rings, Stormfront from The Boys, Leto Atreides II from Dune, the Council of Sisters from Castlevania, and my favorite one is actually a character called the Phoenix from a book series called Fablehaven. Kind of obscure, but love those books. These characters are complex and interesting and way too underutilized, so consider making one yourself. Tip 5. Try your best to understand how vast the time scales are. Most of these characters live hundreds to thousands of years, sometimes much longer, and you can take it in steps to wrap your head around it. First, spend some time thinking about how much things can change in just 10 years. I'm willing to bet you personally were in many ways a different person 10 years ago than you are now. Think how much the world has changed since 10 years ago. Now, multiply that by 10 and try to imagine what 100 years is. 100 years is enough time for countries to rise and fall, for entire unwritten languages to appear and then disappear again. This is a good exercise, by the way, even if you don't have any immortal characters in your world building. Whenever you're coming up with timescales in history, just keep in mind that few things to do with people stay the same for long. Now, if you're doing it right, you'll realize you can't imagine 100 years. It's too big, there's too much. Now, multiply it by 10 anyway, and try to imagine 1,000 years. Imagine living through all of U.S. history, from the British are coming to the Wright brothers to today, and then realize that's only a quarter of the way to 1,000 years. Just try to imagine time enough to master every skill you've admired, enough time to have a big city's worth of descendants. If you do nothing else, just having a respect for the vastness of time will influence your writing far beyond many authors and quite a bit beyond the writing of at least the second half of Disney's Atlantis. Hope that gave you some ideas to work with, and if you liked it, you'll get even more ideas from checking out some of my other work here. And until next time, toodles.